I just want to thank everybody for raising their hand and participating in Global Entrepreneurship Week.
Just the internet.
Hey there. Okay, I think I can hear you guys.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, I think it was just a
Are we
glitch in the
good?
tool.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. There you go. Yeah. And I think you can hear me.
Yes.
We're back.
See?
Wonderful.
Oh, technology at its best, right?
Indeed. Oh, there we go. That's a little bit cooler, closer.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, sweet. Did you see our super epic video, Joseph?
I saw it but couldn't hear it, so I was like, oh no. But that is an epic video. That was awesome.
Yeah. Hey, well, it's finally great to make your acquaintance, and folks for tuning in live and dealing with the technical difficulties. Thanks for your patience. But we've got a brilliant individual with us today, calling in from Denver. So be sure to drop in with your questions or comments you might have. But Joseph, why don't you open this up for us and tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do?
Yeah, so I am a very weird bird. My background in Vegas is, for the better part of my career, I designed light fixtures for hotels and casinos. So at the Wynn, I designed 80% of all the major decorative at the Wynn. So if you've been to the Wynn Encore, you've seen my light fixtures in all the retail space, the red car chandeliers. If you've been to the Cosmo, all the lighting on the casino floor. So that's what I got started, and then I got the startup bug in 2010. Josh Levitt's texting me right now. I got the startup bug in 2010. I launched my first tech startup in 2012. I failed at that one. I went completely broke. And then did my second startup in 2014. I raised $2.2 million for that one. We had at a year and 9 months, 500,000 monthly new visitors for Design Wall. Ultimately, we failed to pivot. I began a talk show on Facebook in 2018. That talk show, I even have the tattoo for it. Design Talk Live cleared 3.2 million views in 2018. I had the Property Brothers on. We lip sync battled, all kinds of fun stuff. And then I went back into tech, and currently I've got 28 tech companies, 2 nonprofits, 8 small businesses, opening a coffee concept. I've got 2 more tech platforms in the background, and I've published 22 books on Amazon using ChatGPT.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. So much activity you've got going on.
Well, and
I'd say there's entrepreneurship, there's serial entrepreneurs, and then there's addicts.
I love it. I gotta go. Wherever you get your plug, let me know. I was gonna ask for help, but I don't want rehab for my entrepreneurial addiction.
no, I don't think we're like, no, we're good. We're crazy, but we're good.
Right.
Well, funny you say that, because I lead the Denver chapter of Tech Alley, and under Tech Alley, we've launched Founder Rehab. So it's under the Tech Alley umbrella, but it's for former founders. I find that the startup ecosystem and the business ecosystem is great for people on the way up. There's free events, there's networking, there's funding, there's accelerator programs. But what happens when your business fails? Where do those people go? Where do those and truth be told, they just disappear. They're the people you don't see at the event anymore. And yet, second-time founders are 24% more likely to succeed, and third-time founders are 64% more likely to succeed. They've gone through it. They've learned what not to do, and if they come back, they've got a really good chance of success. And so with Tech Ellie and through Founder Rehab, it's like a 12-step program plus 2 to help process the loss and then get people back in.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, so I'm a co-founder myself, and my co-founder, he's actually going to be here later today. And so this is his 3rd company. And there's something with that. And him and I have had a lot of conversations, and he shared with me, because he was starting up a company just before he came to me with this project. And it was going through, okay, what did I learn? What worked really well? What didn't? Where did I kind of lose myself along the way? And I think when you have founders that maybe had some failures in the past, or maybe they had some success and they're trying to figure out, where do I go next? Sometimes it is kind of, you can get into this space of just going with it because there's something launching, there's this new idea, and you almost kind of forget of like what got you there in the first place, like what actually worked, and how do I duplicate that? And so I feel like, you know, having a space or having a resource where not only can you kind of like grieve that, like you said, and pick yourself back up, but also how do I go on to the next thing? What does that look like for me? And how do I not just get lost?
And I think that that there's a lot of pressure. People see like Facebook and Instagram and these big unicorn companies, or even if you go like, you know, some of your smaller, not, you know, the platforms, we see what it looks like now. But Slack was a gaming platform, and it had this neat little conversational widget within it. Imagine if they had pulled the plug on it because the game console or program didn't work, and that they never said, well, let's lean into this one feature and pull that out and make an entire company around it. Facebook went through all kinds of iterations before it became Facebook. We forget that these big giant unicorns started out small, and they started out gangly, and they usually started out with several different failures before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you had kind of mentioned a little bit how you were, you know, doing a project and it was a massive failure, and so then it's figuring out what the next thing is. And so I would love for you to walk us through that. Like what was happening? What were you processing? And then how did you get through?
Yeah, so I'll tell you the major thing was I and it was funny because right away people asked, well, you're a lighting guy, so what do you know about tech? I didn't know anything. It was worse than tech. I didn't understand what it took to launch a tech startup. And the major difference is there's a huge difference between a small business and a tech startup. I launched the first version. It was CPAD. I thought it needed to be an app because back then everybody was saying, oh, app. This did not need to be an app. Also, from a small business standpoint, hold on, I'm going to plug in because my phone's saying I've got a low battery, which I don't know why. Okay, so when I started out, I launched it as a small business. A small business for me, the major difference, why this isn't plugging in. Now we're going to have battery issues. Hold on.
No, we're good. We're going to get this.
How do we have battery issues? I'll just keep talking through it, but the major difference, there we go. Now it's charging. The major difference from a small business to a tech startup was, with a small business, if you go out and you start paying for everything, and you start building your company. With a tech startup, you go seek funding, and you go get that revenue to be able to get the runway that you need to be able to acquire the talent or the users that you need. I didn't know that on the first go round, so I just started paying marketing companies and PR companies, and I didn't know how to launch my company. So the first one failed because I launched a tech startup as a small business. I should have launched it. I learned later that I discovered the startup ecosystem, the 1 million cups in Irvine, and I learned that you could go raise money from other people, and you could recruit people to join your team by distribution of equity, and I didn't know that the first time around.
Yeah, and I really do wonder, because I'm in this space right now. So my company, we're in our pre-seed funding round, and this is my first tech startup. And so I'm thankful that I have a guy that's kind of been through this. But it is that there is that mindset shift of, from doing, like, I would say more of like a traditional business as opposed to a tech startup, because to your point, there are a lot of differences in that space. But I've also noticed some parallels, or I wonder too if there are some things that we do with a tech startup that would be of benefit. Like, what would happen if a small business or a startup in any other vertical were to go about it the way that we do a tech startup? And I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that as far as anybody you've guided.
Definitely. Small businesses, I don't think enough focus on their exit strategy. So hands down, your donut shop, your coffee shop, your cupcake baker, right away they come at it from, I make a good cupcake. And they don't think acquisition, they don't think exit strategy. And for that reason, not a lot of small businesses will ever exit. They'll usually just simply close. And so if, so kind of along that vein, when social media hit the marketing scene, the companies used to refer to marketing and social media like they were two different things. Like they were actually like they were adversarial to each other. We still say small business and tech, and I wish we'd stop that. They are all business. They're just different funding paths. But those different funding paths within all different business niches, I say we stop doing that. As we've merged and tech stuck around, you're seeing local businesses using their own apps now. And I wish we would stop making the distinction between small business and startup. I think that they're all businesses and they all have unique funding paths, but I would love to see the day that we quit calling it tech or small business or startup or small business. We're all businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. And I know something that I've noticed here with our startup community, and I'm curious of how it is in Denver, is I have seen some diversity, and it's not just tech focused. And so I feel like that's also a point to be made here within the just entrepreneurial ecosystem is, when we're talking about the startups that are happening, it's not just tech. It's anything. We had a founder on yesterday that's in the generator program, and she has created mocktails. And so she's going over, through funding and through distribution and, the go-to-market. And again, to your point, it's business. Business is business. It doesn't matter what the vertical, it doesn't matter the industry. It's that similar approach. And so again, I think that's what's so great about coming into community, so we can share ideas and say, hey, this is what's working really well over here. Let's implement it over here.
Well, that and I think you'll find two different paths, right? You'll find a person that will find the startup ecosystem, the startup community. I'm going to find another spot to plug in. So you guys are sorry about walking with me here. So what I think we end up with this weird emphasis on, so some people might go SBA, some people might go SBDC, they might find their local score, and they're going to go learn business fundamentals. In the startup space, people will go start exploring funding paths. And so startups will go learn how to go get funding, but they'll not learn how to run their business. Small businesses will learn how to go run their business. They won't learn how to get funding. So again, I wish that there wasn't this distinction. In fact, I submitted a paper to Las Vegas saying I believe that we should approach starting a business, whether it's tech or small business, as a infrastructure problem. The same way that a city would plan to put a freeway on-ramp in a poor neighborhood, that they should also plan on how to get people who have a business idea into, there we go, now we're plugged in. How to get people into a starting their business. I consider it like on-ramps to a highway.
I like that.
If we approach it as an ecosystem system, infrastructure, when we plan to build a community, a new housing tract out somewhere, we put in on-ramps, we put in sewage, we put in electricity, we put in internet access. And yet, a person who starts a small business or a tech company, where do they go? Where do they go to pull permits? Where do they go to? And they don't right now. There's no plan. And there's no infrastructure for it. I think we should approach it as an infrastructure problem.
Yeah, for sure. I know because of ARPA, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, ushered in like hundreds of millions of dollars, or if not much more than that, all around the country to help with the COVID recovery. And a big part of that came through Nevada and funded some entrepreneurial programs. That's why Startup Nevada, Startup Vegas got more grant money as a direct outcome of ARPA. And the city of Las Vegas also funded a program through an organization, nonprofit called Access CDFI, called the Las Vegas Entrepreneurship Accelerator Program, as well as the BOSS program. There are some infrastructural issues come into play, like the LVEA or Las Vegas Entrepreneur Accelerator Program. They just had their first cohort not long ago, and we did our second cohort for BOSS. And so the difference between those programs is BOSS is meant for businesses that are doing less than 100,000. So they're getting the fundamentals, but then also access to loan officers to learn about finance. And then businesses doing more than 100,000 enter the accelerator program, and that's live now. That's Las Vegas Entrepreneur Accelerator.com.
So those are
CFI.com. Both of these programs are relatively new to the city.
Yeah, and so the grants and accelerators.
The small business versus tech stuff. Like I'm not. I'm hearing.
I think I've given you guys the worst feed possible. I don't know if my connection's good here.
Yeah. We hear you.
Okay. Well, with grants and accelerators, I would say the major problem is when I go to start my business, I don't think let me go apply for grants. So the grant process is an archaic process that has not been innovated. And I think if we're going to use that funding distribution process, then I think it needs to be updated. There's so much money locked up that you have to apply for, and just, whether you're a small business or a tech, your first reaction isn't let me apply.
Grant program for businesses.
Yeah, it still is. I mean, I've talked with the governor here in Colorado, and
they're not being distributed.
we haven't feed
Directly to small businesses. They're being sent to government.
I'm breaking up pretty bad. The problem with grants is just getting that money deployed. The problem with accelerators is traditionally they only serve 8% of the ecosystem. So of all the startups out there, after threading the needle and getting into an accelerator program, you're not guaranteed funding. It's just you get some education. And the biggest problem with that is entrepreneurs are like water. on a rainy day, they're going to find a leak in the roof, or they're going to in the foundation, and they're going to find their way in. They don't come in the front door. They don't come in the back door. So idea is like we should have grants and we should have accelerators, but the idea that they would be the paths to it is not even the path that most entrepreneurs start. Most entrepreneurs just start. They just start. So I all these things are good. I think yes, but the idea that they would be I think we've gotten really dependent on grant and accelerator programs, and I think we need more. I think we need more access. So I think some of that grant money can be freed up to be distributed faster. The startup ecosystem is really neat in the way that they deploy funds by doing pitch events and this sort of thing. You don't see that in the small business world. You see BNI, you see these networking events for referrals. But again, this is because I think that there's like a pocket. There's small business that goes over here, there's tech that goes over here, and we're not merging those ideas. And imagine if we could deploy funds faster. Also in the startup world, as far as funding goes, it used to be that angels, you would go to an angel, and that angel, they had some experience in your space. So maybe you were in medical, and you talk with an angel, and they're like, oh, I used to be the whatever at a hospital. So there was some of that. They had experience. Then they would introduce you to their network. Oh, this is such a great idea, and I believe in it. I'm going to introduce you to the people that I know. And then they would bring funding right before going to the next spot. VCs used to be wild and woolly money. This was, hey, I want to send a rocket to Mars and, not come back. And VCs like, oh, sounds amazing. VCs and angels have begun to act more traditional. They are almost harder to get into than a bank. A bank needs a credit score, but out here in Colorado, Denver Angels needs your startup to qualify for angel funding to be doing $1 million of reoccurring revenue. You're not a startup, man. That's angels and VCs have begun to act as institutional. Funny enough, though, we've made a lot of changes in financing, and an unaccredited investor can now invest for $500. So we've laxed the rules. For the first time, I think, in U.S. economic history, you have millennials and Gen Z who, in 2008, had a good education, but the jobs weren't there. So they stayed in, they got better education. When they came out, they got good jobs. When the jobs hired, they got good paying jobs. In 2020, no fault of their own, the job market went away again. So these two generations, twice in their lifetime, have seen, to no fault of their own, the job market sweep out from underneath them. Those guys are making good money. And for the first time, I think, in U.S. economic history, you're seeing those people, they're millennials and Gen Z, are 64% likely to acquire a business that's doing about $30,000 to $40,000 in recurring revenue. So we've got this new equity class of investor that we didn't have before. And so that's fairly interesting. So for founders and companies that are looking for funding, and VCs and angels have become tougher to get into than a bank, or that they require you to go through an accelerator program, there's this whole new class of investor who are investing at the equity level. Can you guys hear me? Huh. I lost you guys on that feed. So I think it's now just me. I don't know if I'm still streaming here.